2007's Formula Atlantic runoff had a wet start on rain tires for the field, and Tonis Kasmets in the yellow 09 rocketed into the lead past pole sitter Hans Peter. But on the next corner, Keith Grant dropped from the lead with this big spin. And after a 4-lap pursuit and Kasmets' tires going off, Peter shot to the inside in turn 7 and grabbed back the lead. Mid-race, after losing third to John Witherspoon, David Wilcox in his older Swift got it back with this pass down the front straight, only to lose it again in the closing laps, locking up into turn 1. At the stripe, Hans Peter claimed his second win in the same runoffs, having won CSR earlier in the same car with different bodywork, a double medal event. Formula Atlantic is without doubt the pinnacle of technology here at the runoffs. In this year's race, the charge will be led by 2 members of Grant's Army. Now, Keith Grant has a gold at the runoffs, but it was in a GT car in 03. He's been very fast this year, including a fighting second at the prestigious June Sprints. The guy who beat him, his brother David. One of 4 wins he's put together this year, hoping to make it one more and step up from his silver in 06. But the underdog here certainly is Mark Felsen. He's been coming to the runoffs since 74 on and off, this year driving a flat bottom Pro Mazda car. Now there's another guy here who is also very interested in these machines.
Well, Greg, as you know, this category is certainly very close to my heart. I spent many seasons of racing right here in one of these Formula Atlantic race cars. They're great cars. They're the fastest cars here at the runoffs. One driver we need to keep an eye on this year is our 2006 champion, Merle Swan. He skipped the runoffs last year to assist Hans Peter in winning the gold. His team is looking for 3 straight. 8 times runoff veteran is this man, Fabio Castellani. He's hoping to use his vast racing background to good stead here in Topeka. And Dave Wilcox is always a fact. He won the Midwest Division with 5 victories. Coming off a season like that, he has a lot of confidence. He's hoping to put the heartbreak of last year when he had a podium finish going until his rear wheel came loose.
We are at Heartland Park, Topeka, Kansas for the 3rd consecutive year for SCCA's National Championship Runoffs. This is the 45th running of this legendary event, the Olympics of Motorsports. Welcome everybody to the Formula Atlantic National Championship Battle. This class began as Formula B in 1965, renamed Formula Atlantic in 1979. And as we come, as I said, for the 3rd year here to Heartland Park, Topeka for the runoffs, this is an incredibly prestigious class in the Sports Car Club of America. Joining us in the pits, Justin Bell and John Bizignano, and joining me in the booth, 87 Atlantic champion Calvin Fish. And Cal, these cars on this track should be great.
They'll be very challenging for these Atlantic drivers here this afternoon. This Heartland Park Raceway gives them a lot of high-speed sections here on the front stretch, and then over there, heading down into turn 10. Also, some medium-speed stuff through here where the aerodynamics will certainly be working. Then you're looking for mechanical grip through the final part of the racetrack.
And these Formula Atlantic chassis offer up every one of those elements. Tell us a little bit more about the class.
Well, Formula Atlantic is the fastest of all the Formula classes. Incredible power to weight ratio. It's like IndyCar type technologies, and the engines produce around 240 horsepower.
And with those big fat slicks, they also get that mechanical grip down in the twisty stuff, which is important as well. Now let's get down to the pre-grid for any stories developing there. Justin Bell.
Well, qualifying 6th in his number 71, Michael Melianen actually has quite a history at IMSA Lights, but also was recently at the Monterey Historics, where he really got his hands on some meaty machinery with a March Formula 1 car. Now, obviously, the horsepower is a bit different, but I'd say this modern technology on this Atlantic here might well more than make up for it. Biz?
I'll tell you, Chris Lee, his teammate, he is 3.7 seconds off pole. Now, it's a little bit unusual for him. He finished 3rd in a very competitive Southeast division. There's no greater competition than amongst teammates. Now, his one teammate is on pole. The second one is sitting right next to him. For him to salvage something from this weekend, all he has to do is move forward 1 place. That way, within his team, when it comes to the championship, he will have finished 2nd instead of last.
Well, you're absolutely right. Teammates, when they get together on the track, that's when it gets intense, and we are looking for that kind of a battle. And we've got some brothers that are racing as teammates as well. It is going to be fast and furious. And when you take a look at the names that have come through as legends in this category where they started off. 1970, Skip Barber. 75, Bobby Rahal. 93, Greg Ray. And in 2005, Graham Rahal. That is what launched him into a career that now has him racing in Indy cars. We'll be right back to Heartland Park. Welcome back to Heartland Park, Topeka, Kansas, as the Formula Atlantic machinery is on its outlap, getting ready for the pace and parade laps to start this 18-lap battle for the 2008 National Championship in Formula Atlantic. And Calvin, as we take a look at these cars, you won the championship in '87, as you said at the top of the show. You spent a lot of time in these cars. They've evolved even more. These things are amazing. Take us through a little bit of what it's like to drive one of these things at speed.
Well, the sensation of speed is simply amazing. Of all the race cars I've driven during my racing career, I mean, these really give you the best package, the great balance. Gives you incredible grip, both mechanically through the slow speed corners and certainly with the aero package that these cars now have. Look at that machine. It looks like a mini Indy car. The technology is just amazing. So these high speed corners here at Heartland Park, these cars will literally fly through. They also have great brakes as well. They just stop on a dime. You can't believe how late you can take these cars down into the corners. What that does, however, it gives you a very small braking zone. So it's going to be tough for these drivers to pass here today.
And Justin Bell, you too have a bit of experience in Atlantic machinery. What was it like for you?
Well, I was actually racing them over in New Zealand, where they have a great history of Atlantic racing. And I tell you what I remember most about driving the cars, Cal, and you'll back this up, is that because of the downforce, because of the amazing corner speeds, you're actually able to really go places where no man has gone before. And if you can make it stick, if you've got the balls to make it stick, you really feel like a hero. And that's why I love Atlantic racing. It hasn't got the horsepower, but it's a bit like British Formula 3. If you're a good driver, you can really make these cars work. And of course, setup is critical, so it makes great engineers out of these young drivers.
Well, the setup part is certainly critical, because you can just tweak on these cars a little bit and suddenly find 3 or 4 tenths, and that just really takes you away from your nearest competitors. So working on the car throughout the course of the weekend is important. Got different track conditions here today. It's a little bit cooler, a little bit breezier. That will affect the setup here for the race.
And one of the things with the ground effects technology in those tunnels, the wings, you can really use them to balance the car out. But you were talking about how great the brakes are, and obviously from high speed, that ground effects helps you brake even deeper still, doesn't it?
Well, the more you commit with these cars, the more you get out of them. So as Justin was saying, it's amazing the places you can go. You can go around the outside of some of these corners. The carousel turn, for example, that's like a high-speed oval turn. With the amount of downforce these cars have, it is a possibility to make a move there around this left-hander that they're just approaching.
All right, and let's take you through the starting lineup. And Cal, it is a little light in terms of numbers, but it's very strong in terms of talent.
It really is high in quality. Our 2006 champ Swan leads the field to green, but the top 4 drivers are separated by a mere 3/4 of a second. It should really be an exciting race for the medals here today.
It should indeed. 18 laps at speed around this track, and really looking forward to this. And that's one of the things you said, the more you commit, the more you get out of it. The one thing you have to remember with tunnel technology is you don't get that ground effects without speed, because it's the speed that gets the air moving through the tunnels and creates it. So commitment is everything in these cars. There's a look at the number 88 of Merle Swan, and let's get back down to biz.
You know, I've got to fully agree with both Calvin and Justin. These are real race cars. They are adjustable in every way. Front wings, front brakes, the brake bias, you can actually adjust inside the car during the race. Front sway bars, rear wings, all those things make for a car that can be adjusted throughout the race. Let me tell you, a driver must know his stuff to get the maximum speed from these cars. They put on a great show. Hey, for more, back to Justin Bell.
Well, number 70, David Wilcox, is 4th on the grid in his Crosley DB4. Now, you might say, sorry, Swift DB4, I meant to say that right. Might not sound that impressive, but actually his car is 20 years old. So before you think that the guys at the front are just wasting their money on new technology, there is a reason for that. His car is much more aerodynamic, less drag, and so therefore it goes through the air faster, which with this headwind may give him a big advantage on the straight, but it doesn't come off the corners so well. It doesn't have that modern geometry to pull it off. But he's very happy in that Swift, and I'd say they've definitely got their money's worth in a 20-year-old car. Greg, Cal?
Absolutely. I've often referred to him as the giant killer because you get these guys with this brand new equipment, and here he is. The car is a bit slipperier because it doesn't make the same level of downforce, which means drag, so it goes through the air quicker, but it doesn't have quite the grip technology, yet this guy hustles this car. It is unbelievable to watch him, especially in the dam.
He drives the wheels off. He literally did that last year when a wheel came loose towards the end of the race and cost him a podium finish, but he will be pushing hard here when we see the green.
And that is about to happen here. Formula Atlantic coming up to the green, and the start of the National Championship runoff for 2008. Here we go. And Swan got pipped. The black car, he's inside, outside, back inside, now outside, trying to make it work. Look at Wilcox up into third. Beautiful move, and he's not done yet.
He isn't. Swan gets wide. Oh, Wilcox is off. Swan bobbled a little bit. That caught David out. Now he's got to recover here and get back online. We talked about going side by side through the carousel. This is what we're talking about, the downforce of those cars. Look at that. Swan tries to recover from a bobble there on the opening lap.
And that's the number 40 of Keith Grant, who nosed ahead of Swan for a minute till Swan, as you said, made the commitment around the outside. And look for number 70, Wilcox. Maybe he just lost some of the air. He was so close behind as they came through turn 2, and it just suddenly pushed wide. So it's David Grant out front, Swan back into second, but Keith Grant now has moved up into third, and David Wilcox has dropped back a bit.
Well, he really committed to that opening chicane there, and Swan had, oh, the lead is off. Tire pressures, tire temps not up. David Grant slices off the racetrack. Mill Swan closes in.
What an eventful opening lap here we are seeing.
Well, the conditions are changing. Now he's using all of the curb. His tires will be dirty, and the whole pack is now really closing back in on him.
Grant just picked up one spot and got around Malinan. Up front next would be Fabio Castellani, but Castellani has attached himself to the back of this lead group. It is a 4-car battle right now for the lead as we complete lap number 1. All that in the opening lap. Here's a look at some more.
Watch the black car, Swan. He gets wide. David Wilcox has nowhere to go. He takes to the grass, recovers nicely. Fortunately, no one in his way. Then later in the lap, this is the leader, David Grant, excuse me, straight off the racetrack through that fast chicane.
And back to the race itself. It is still David Grant leading. That is Swan, a bobble right there. Tells you how on the edge they are right now. Then Keith Grant, then Fabio Castellani. Great run for Castellani.
Well, you would think that Merle Swan would be the favorite here. He won in 2006. His team won here last year, Hans Peter. You'd think they'd have a handle, but right now it just shows how competitive. We said it's a small grid, but look at the quality here. The top 4 tied together.
Number 12, David Grant. Now, one of the things to note here, both of the Grant cars get a lot of support from Polestar Racing Group. That's Jim Griffiths, and Calvin, you know that name from the Pro Atlantic ranks. They've got some pretty good help. And look at Merle Swan. Oh, did he get a run? He's looking to the inside. David Grant has
on the brakes. He's wide. He's in the marbles. Offline here, it's treacherous. There's been so many races here today. It's dirty offline. Wilcox making a move now. He's up to 4th, looking for 3rd.
Wilcox already around Castellani, and he has gone down the inside of Keith Grant. Grant going to try the inside 14. No. What a comeback drive by David Wilcox.
He is flying. Seems like he's got great grip. We talked about the fact that that older Swift may not have the mechanical grip of the new cars, but boy, he's certainly driving the wheels off this thing. Keith Grant now tries to come back down the inside, but Wilcox is very aggressive. Look at his entry speed there, flies through that chicane.
Wilcox is simply amazing with his car control, and we have watched him over the years. Unbelievable. Let's go and take a look at some of the action that's unfolded here. First of all, here is the run by Swan on leader David Grant.
Just gets through that chicane really quick, dives to the inside for turn 10, gets in a little bit too deep, and there you see Grant is immediately able to respond. Here's another look at it. Merle just runs wide. He's offline. He's in the dirt there. Saves it nicely. You have to gather up. You got to ease out of the gas. Don't want to do anything too dramatic. Otherwise, you'd have been sideways. Then here's the battle for 3rd. Look at Wilcox. Slices down the inside.
What an impressive driver. He runs in the same division as does your race leader, David Grant. And David Grant, even though he's leading this race, it is Wilcox who won the division championship. 5 wins he put together. An amazing talent, but right now it's David out front with Swan in second.
As many of you know, Formula Atlantic is a very popular class all throughout North America. These pro cars have filtered down into the club racing from 02, and they are beautifully turned out. The front wings are very effective. Those shock absorbers sitting on top of the carbon fiber chassis are worth $10,000. A very interesting side intake along the car that leads into the Toyota 1600cc motor, developing about 250 horsepower. The rear wings develop a great amount of downforce that allow the cars to go through many of the corners here in Heartland Park flat out in 5th gear. When all the body work is on the car, it is a beautiful turned out formula car that is capable of speeds of over 150 miles an hour.
They are just fabulous pieces of technology, and Merle Swan, his team, his prep shop, is also prepping 2 other cars here in this race. So not only has he been busy behind the wheel, he's been busy in the shop getting other competitors to the runoffs.
Well, the team is very effective at Merle Swan. He has a challenge on his hand here. We thought he was favorite to win this one. We expected him to take off from pole and have a close challenge from behind, but right now he does not have the lead. He looks really quick through that high-speed chicane, but look at this. David Grant pulling out again.
Last time by, it was officially 0.4 of a second, and as they sweep by the start-finish stand and the timing beam, that is now almost 0.7 of a second. So there's the answer. Wilcox, the amazing David Wilcox, comes by the Keith Grant, and then Fabio Castellani there, right there. That's the Pro 1 Swift, is in the 5th spot right now, and he is staying pretty well attached to Keith Grant.
He's doing a great job, but the fastest man on the track right now is David Wilcox. Here we're looking at Keith Grant. He's running in 4th position. He had a spin in the rain here in 07. He won in the 03 in the GT class, but he's run by Polestar, as you said. Jim Griffiths turns out great race cars, so he's got 2 really strong drivers on his squad here looking for medals today.
And there is a good look at David Wilcox in that old Swift. And frankly, I still think that Swift, that year's Swift, Calvin, is one of the prettiest cars that has ever graced a Formula Atlantic grid.
There's a thorn in my side because that really came on the scene back when I was running the old Roll RT4, and some of the competitors in this series, namely Steve Shelton, suddenly got their hands on one of these cars, and it really turned the Formula Atlantic Championship around. The amount of downforce that those cars created, and then of course we're looking at the current breed here of the newer Swift chassis, the 014 of course, and these just taking it to another level as well.
I remember in the runoffs a few years ago, quite a few years ago, back in Atlanta, watching a guy named Greg Ray in one of those Swift chassis put on a virtual clinic, and actually had a problem on the outlap, dropped to the back of the pack, augured his way back through. Those cars are incredibly effective. But here we go again in the very fast stuff. Swan able to close up on Grant, but then he loses just a little bit, and meanwhile Wilcox continues to set amazingly fast laps. Fastest again, Calvin.
He was. He's got a couple of tenths on the man in front of him, Merle Swan, and he's 4 tenths faster than the leader, Justin.
Yeah, and the leader, I have to say, if you think cars number 12 and 40 prepared out of the same shop, they are running almost identical setup. Now, there's no excuse at this point in the race for tire temperatures or pressures. They know where the wind is, and obviously going into the first couple of corners, the car has a lot of front downforce. Going into the sweepers at the back, it gets a little loose. But the guys are running very hard, and the team looks very content on the radio. But, you know, it is a very tight race. One little slip, and this will change the face of this race.
Well, and you talk about them running identical setups. Last lap, the leader ran a 1:26.074. Keith ran a 1:26.070. That's pretty identical, I'd say. We'll be right back. When you think about prestige classes in the Sports Car Club of America, and especially in their national championship runoffs, one that is always mentioned is Formula Atlantic. It has launched many careers, and it is one of the most spectacular of all classes. And today, we are underway with the 2008 National Championship Runoff in Formula Atlantic in the 45th running of this legendary event. And right now, it is David Grant leading, Swan and Wilcox. Cal?
Well, Wilcox is flying his last lap, nearly a second faster than the leaders. Now he's going to start to pick up the draft. The other side of that is he'll start to lose a little bit of the aero effect on these front wings when he gets really close. So right now we'll have to see how that balances out in terms of picking up some advantage from the aero slipstream and then losing the downforce on the wings at the same time.
And John Bizignano right now, Merle Swan, he's close to the leader, but he's going to get company.
Well, actually, I got to ask you about this, Calvin. Talking to him on the grid, he said his advantage all weekend long has been low-speed grip when working with the shock absorbers. Now, here at Heartland Park, I know that there are several flat-out fifth-speed corners. Do you think it really is an advantage to be concentrating on the low-speed corners?
Well, it's all about lap time, but when you get the best lap time, that's good if you're out front, but when you're behind, you need the advantage in the key areas, and right now, it is so hard to pass in one of these Atlantic cars around here because they have so much downforce and so much entry speed. To make it easy overtaking in a race car, you need long braking zones, and the Atlantic cars don't have those. David Wilcox, I think he lost a little bit of ground on that last lap, but he closes up again on Swan. Now it's only 4/10 behind Merle Swan for second.
That time it was David Grant, the leader, who did turn the quickest lap of that trio, quickest lap overall, but only by 2/10 over Wilcox. And how is Wilcox being able to do this in a car that technically should not be as quick and as effective? Is this the wind cheating with all of this wind? Maybe Justin Bell has a little information for us.
Well, I think we might have the answer to why it's going so well in this race. Dave's running obviously a talented driver, but you've got a theory on the aero.
Yeah, our car has a little bit smaller frontal area, so I think it allows us to get through the air a little bit better.
So you're probably the only guy here today that's happy with this win.
Well, maybe a little bit, yeah. We would have liked it a little less, but it does help us some, I think.
I mean, we've also noticed he's coming off the corners very well, but I think we have to put that down to David's skill, don't we?
Yeah, he's an old go-kart driver, and he's really figured out how to get some speed out of this old car. He does a very good job with it.
Well, now we just hope the next move is the overtaking. Well done. We'll keep our eye on it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Guys?
This is absolutely a sensational performance by young Mr. Wilcox in this old chassis. He is flying.
He really is, and as his team manager said there, he raced cars for 10 years, so he certainly knows how to throw it around. He's really quick there through that mechanical grip stuff as well. Loses a little bit of aero effect off the corner there, loses a bit of ground.
Trying to carry every ounce of speed he can to run with those two modern Swifts up front, and he's doing it. Approaching the halfway point of our Formula Atlantic National Championship for 2008, and Merle Swan, who was on the pole, got pipped by David Grant going down into the first turn, and that old Swift of David Wilcox right in the mix, Cal.
There you see, Wilcox had nowhere to go. Merle Swan backed up a little bit. He runs off the road and had to put in a recovery drive.
Meanwhile, the leader, David Grant, a little bit too much speed on cold tires in that opening lap. This is all opening lap stuff. Ran wide, and then Cal, a big move by Merle Swan.
Merle Swan dives to the inside in turn 10. He can't keep it together, and immediately Grand Response takes the lead back.
And you talked about the comeback drive by the number 70 of Wilcox. In almost no time at all, he went from about 7th around, made this pass on Keith Grant, and picked up 3rd, and then closed in on that lead battle. That may have been the drive of the race so far, just that comeback drive. And we are now working lap 9 of 18, so the next time by start finish, we're halfway, and this one has been chock full of excitement already.
It really is. I can't say how impressed I am about these guys. I mean, they are just doing a tremendous job out there, just really hitting their mark. Tremendous commitment, but the star has to be David Wilcox. We talked about that aero effect, though. It seems to have stabilized. He was really catching these guys gangbusters. Now it's stabilized.
Now we're going to go back in the pack just a little bit. There is the number 71 of Michael Malinen. He is driving one of these Swift 014s, and he is in the mix right now. Look at this big move here as he comes up. He is on the back of the 69. That is Christopher Lee, who is also in a Swan Racing prepped Swift. Chris Lee doing a nice job. This is a solid battle for 6th. Matter of fact, it's about to heat up.
It really is. Lee gets a great jump there off that final corner, gets a little bit of a slipstream at all. He's got the outside line, though. How hard will Malinen push it? No, he gives it to him. Lee forces his way through and takes over that position.
Well, that's one of the things that it certainly appears on that outside line. You get a little bit more entry speed, and obviously if you're trapped to the inside, the radius is much tighter, and so it slows you up a little bit. Meanwhile, up front, again, Swan closing in on the 12 of David Grant.
But David Grant seems to have his measure. Swan is very fast through 8 and 9, that high-speed chicane. Unfortunately, David Wilcox seems to be dropping off a little bit. Maybe he's used up his tires or the car's gone away a bit. And now these later generation Swifts really seem to be coming in their own. Grant has a little bit of understeer there. You can see the steering input as he comes off that final turn, looking for traction.
Last lap, the leader ran a 25.6. Swan and Wilcox 25.9s. This time a 26 flat for the leader, Grant. 26-1 and a 26 flat for Swan and Wilcox, respectively. This couldn't be closer, Cal, in terms of times. Oh, big moment there. And the 71, that's Mallinen. It looked like a little bump from the 69 of Chris Lee, and Mallinen off.
Wow, that's too bad. They're having a great battle there, and he's off in the weeds. Be interesting to see if that car has any life in it. Otherwise, we may see a caution here. That's not a good spot to leave a car with 6-7 laps to go.
6-9, that is Lee. Doesn't look like he had any damage necessarily, so I wonder what may have happened here, unless it just stalled. Watch it here again, Cal.
Here we see Lee gets a run, goes down to the inside. Jinx there to the inside of 10. Mallinen just comes across.
I thought they touched. There was no contact.
No, he just tried to turn in and then just lost control out there in the marbles. Maybe have stalled the engine.
I wonder if he locked up when he realized he was going off, just killed the engine, and now is not able to restart. So now 69, Christopher Lee has himself a 6th place all by himself at 71. Still cannot get that engine restarted. Meanwhile, here's David Grant, Swan, Wilcox, our lead trio going for the 3 medals here at the National Championship Runoffs Formula Atlantic. And it looks like Wilcox might be closing in on Swan again. Lots of racing to go. Welcome back to Heartland Park, Topeka, as we are now working lap 12 of 18. 6 laps and a handful of corners remaining here in this National Championship runoff to the gold medal in Formula Atlantic. Currently still David Grant holding on, but it's just a matter of tenths back to Merle Swan, and tenths again back to David Wilcox in that white and blue number 70.
Grant is doing a superb job. Other than that off on the first lap when the tire temps went up through that high-speed chicane, David Grant has done a tremendous job here this afternoon. Really impressive drive. And you know, when you've got the 2006 champion behind you and you hold him at bay, that really puts it into perspective.
With that run to that very fast 8-9, the bus stop, as they run now up and over the tunnel and into turn 10. And, you know, these cars we talked about with the ground effects in the tunnels, look at that slide that Grant carried. You have to commit and be willing to really go deep and keep that going. But that means you also have to have a tremendous feel for the absolute edge in these things, don't you?
You really do. It's all about feeling the grip. That's what really makes a good race car driver and makes them a great one. Really maximizing that grip, not stepping over the line, driving right up to it, getting 100% out of the car, 100% out of the tires, and that changes lap to lap during these 18 laps here for a national championship.
Well, Justin Bell, this time the 2 leaders out front turned 25-4s, but Wilcox at 26-1 and dropped off a little bit.
And it's almost not to be surprising. You guys are spot on with the fact you've got to be in tune with the car, but you've also got to be in tune with the car's degradation as the race goes on. Now, Wilcox is running his rear bar full stiff with all that adjustability that Biz talked about because he's getting a push come into the car. And perhaps in his older chassis, the push is exaggerated, whereas you hit it on the head, Cal. I think the modern cars just work the tires that little bit less or in a more optimum setting. So they don't seem upset here in the Wilcox pits. They just feel that he's going to get it. He's settling. It's in that sort of third quarter of the race settling for him. So I think the game's not over for him yet, guys.
Well, being in tune with the degradation means when you start to feel that, you've got to conserve if you want to have anything left.
Well, it's tough, though. I mean, you realize it's a relatively short race. He's got a handful of laps here, and if the leaders are pulling away from him, he can't really back off too much to try and get those tires back. We certainly saw through that medium speed stuff that he did have a lot of steering input and was suffering from understeer.
And here's a look at the only non-Swift, the only non-ground effects car in the category. This is the number 2 of Mark Felsen, the Lynx Wireless Star Mazda Pro Mazda chassis. It does not have tunnels, it's strictly wings, and then of course a little diffuser on the back, and the grip is mostly mechanical. These are the cars that are run essentially in the Star Mazda Championship, and when they run in SCCA, they are categorized as a Formula Atlantic. We met him at the top of the show, and he said, I know I'm not in the hunt for a win, he goes, but I'm here to have fun and say I ran in the runoffs once again. Meanwhile, we drop back to 4th. Keith Grant has just kind of lost touch with his group, and he was certainly a gentleman who was going to be considered a favorite when this one started.
Well, he's had a great run going here. He's about a second off the pace of the leaders, and a lonely fourth right now, but nonetheless, a great drive by Keith Grant. And he'll be disappointed. I'm sure he was looking for a medal here today, but there's a lot of action up front. He just keeps pounding these lap times around. He may, in fact, find himself on the podium tonight.
Well, many times in this year's runoffs, and certainly over the course of the years, we have seen exactly that happen. Late in the going, something happens to somebody in medal contention, and that battle for fourth becomes one for the podium. So you simply never give up, and certainly Merle Swan is not giving up on hopes of a possible gold as he hounds David Grant here, and we have completed 13 laps.
Racing is a question of literal split-second timing. And I've been invited up here at Topeka Racetrack into the inner sanctum of timing and scoring. Now, in the old days, they'd have lots of people with stopwatches, which of course allowed for a little bit of human error. Not that these guys would admit it. But now they have transponders on each car that bring up absolutely accurate timing on a car-by-car, lap-by-lap basis. But they do have some backups, such as a photocell start and finish with one guy looking at each car as they come by on a lap-by-lap basis. Now, in the event of a tied finish, almost a split finish, what they do is they have the transponder information, but they still do it on a visual IQ. Now, that means that all you drivers down there have an awful lot of thanks to give these hard-working, trusty volunteers here at the SCCA.
Justin, you are absolutely correct, and the key word there is volunteers. They are people that come up and do this all season long, regional races, national races, and they don't get paid. Oftentimes they pay for their own lodging, their gas, their meals. They may get a meal at the end of the day. They do it for a simple love of racing and wanting to be a part of something special in the Sports Car Club of America and in timing and scoring. Obviously, you need to know who's doing what, and they do an incredible job.
I think that explains why Justin Bell in the latter parts of his career never got any pole positions. I think he used to chat up the birds in the bar the night before he were handling those stopwatches, and wow, he's suddenly on the front row. But now it's electronically, you can't lie, of course, and he's back where he should be, mid-pack at best.
Oh, that's brutal. Well, here we go. David Grant now. This is the first bit of traffic they're going to deal with. This is the number 93 of R.J. Walker. Justin.
Well, it's lovely. Thanks for throwing me under the bus there. I'm sure my wife would love that.
Hold on, Justin.
Grant to the front.
Traffic, and it caught up Grant. He just could not get around Walker.
Side by side, though. He's going to have the inside line.
Oh, what a piece of driving by David Grant if he pulls this off. He does.
Fantastic. We talked about the carousel. You could possibly... There's Wilcox in the mix. That's our third place driver in the white and blue Swift, of course. He's now running the tail of Swan. Superb driving by these guys.
I think we just saw the definition of what you said, Cal. You get out of these cars what you commit to with them, and Grant trusted that car.
He trusted the car, and he trusted his competitor there, Merle Swan. Just really good, clean driving.
Wow, that was spectacular. That is what Formula Atlantic Racing can produce. Swan, though, still right there. He's usually very quick. In this run to turn 10, we saw him make a little bit of a bobble through it at one point. Couldn't get quite close enough this time, though, Cal. Oh, and then the back end steps out. That's going to cost him just a little bit here. And David Grant is going to head down and complete the lap. Let's go back and look at this one more time.
There you see Grant. He gets balked through that high-speed chicane. Merle Swan dives down to the inside of the carousel. Grant gets back on the power and just runs around the outside. Then he's immediately got the inside for turn 4. There's another look at it. Just incredible stuff. And then Swan uses all of the curb. There's a big bump there, and Wilcox is right in the mix as well. Look at that. That's like a high-speed oval. Incredible stuff.
And the commitment, look at how far back Wilcox was at that point, and watch when they get here to turn number 5, boom, he is right there. He was not going to get trapped. Just some great driving by all these guys, and now Grant continues back through turn 5, and he holds on to that margin once again. In fact, has been able to open it up just a little bit.
You talk about commitment. David Grant wants this gold medal in the worst possible way. He is driving absolutely maximum attack right now.
Flogging that Swift, I think it would be safe to say.
Wringing its neck, that is for sure. And look at the gap he's now got. We've got 2 to go, or a lap and a half to go, essentially. This is where Swan is really quick. He gains a car length or 2 through that section, but then Grant is really quick through this high-speed turn 10 and then through the twisty stuff.
Well,
10 and then through the twisty stuff. 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 10 and then through the twisty stu
Coming up to pick up the indication of 1 lap to go, Grant, Swan, Wilcox, and then a large margin back to Keith Grant of about 14 seconds. So it's down to these 3 at this stage for the 3 medals. Grant onto the front straight. Coming up, he will begin his last lap. Swan right there. And Wilcox drops off just a little bit once again.
I think he's out of the mix now. Unfortunately, it's going to be between these 2 guys for that gold medal. Merle Swan has to drive the lap of his life. David Grant has to just keep doing what he's doing, hitting his marks, being committed. Don't slow down, don't be conservative. Gold medal on the line.
Grant just turned a 1:25.2. Incredibly quick lap late in the going. And there is a nervous crew chief for Merle Swan.
Well, I'm nervous just watching these guys. This has been an incredible race here today. Look at the crews. They know they've put their heart and soul into this whole year, and it comes down to this final lap.
This is such a key turn, and there is a lap car that they're coming up on. I think it is the number 2 of Felsen. So the corner workers will have those blue flags ready to let that driver know that there's faster stuff coming. Here we go. Into 8 and 9.
Well, you just hope he doesn't catch him in the wrong spot really quick through. He's going to get him. He's going to get him before 10. He clears him.
Boy, and did he get through 8 and 9 well. That was, we were expecting Swan to be a little quicker through there, and Grant had a very nice margin. Last time into the
Oh, he gets sideways on the downshift. Swan is close enough. Will he dive for the inside? 2 corners to go.
This is going to be it. 1 more corner. Swan get a straight line to the apex, and Grant shutting the door, comes across. It'll be a drag race. It's a car length out of this final turn. Grant looks like he may have enough. Swan is in the draft. Can he pop? No! David Grant survives a war and wins the gold medal for the national championship in Formula Atlantic. Merle Swan, he gave it his absolute all. And once again, David Wilcox gets the bronze in a brilliant drive as well.
I'm exhausted. I tell you what, man. David Grant, mate, that was superb. Merle Swan, a really class act. He had the opportunity to take him out. He just used good, clean driving, and he wanted to win it the right way.
Just a fabulous race indeed. Keith Grant is 4th. Castellani looks like he'll be good for 5th. And what a tremendous battle. As we said, not that deep field in terms of numbers, but the talent, Justin Bell, was superb.
Well, I'm with Aaron Hoover down here. Aaron, that was just a spectacular day of racing for you.
Yeah, it's been a long time coming, and we finally got it.
You know how many people are here that it never comes to them, so it was worth the wait.
Well, at least it didn't rain, you know.
And did the wind cause him any problems in the car?
No, not really. I mean, you got a tailwind on that side, so it's you know, you got a headwind here, you got a tailwind there. So, yeah. But I mean, it's the same for everybody.
I mean, to win the runoffs, I mean, for your team, that is a spectacular result, and I'm sure you're going to be celebrating tonight.
Well, yeah, I'm proud of him. David drove an excellent race, and I'd like to congratulate Merle also. I mean, he's a heck of a driver. He's a heck of a driver.
Well, thank you very much. Well done to the team. And Biz?
Stuart Miles is the crew chief for the 88 car. What a great race. I'll tell you, he could get close, but he just couldn't really get by him.
Yeah, that's right. It was too good of a race, really. We gave it all we got.
Here comes your man.
Good try, Merle.
Did he say anything to you throughout the race?
No, he never said anything, so he could see who he was behind, and it was just too close, so I didn't have to give him any split times, and it was just a best race of the year.
Congratulations on a great 2nd place, buddy.
Thank you.
All right, guys.
Yeah, I don't think he had enough time to take his thumb off of anything and touch the radio button there. He was pretty well focused.
You can hear the emotion in the voice of the crew chiefs, both in victory and defeat. But look at this. When Grant goes, I think there's a downshift right there he went to, and it just snatched the rear end, and suddenly Merle Swan has a sniff at victory once again. 2 corners to go. He looks to the inside, but David Grant just keeps it together. Swan right there could have pushed his nose in, taking him out. He chose not to. Let's take another look at it. There you see the ball by Grant. Swan is suddenly a lot closer, but just good, clean driving there in the final corner.
And that was all it was, and here he came and picked up a gold medal and joined his brother as a gold medal winner at the runoffs. Welcome back to Heartland Park, Topeka. When you looked at the grid of under 10 cars, you wondered, was this going to be a Formula Atlantic race that would live up to the history of this class? Oh boy, was it. Here are your unofficial top 5, and Justin Bell has a new gold medalist.
David Grant, an undefeated season for you. What a fantastic race.
It was an unbelievable start. I knew that racing against Merle, he's a fantastic competitor, and I had to get him at the start. So I had a great start, got him on the start, and he was right with me nose to tail the whole time. So I couldn't be more excited, especially after the first lap when I went 4 off and on turn 9 in the back. So very exciting. I just couldn't imagine we kept it up front all day. So.
Well, it's probably a good job you don't have big mirrors because he was in them the whole race. I mean, at any point, I mean, he challenged an awful lot.
Yeah, he did challenge quite a bit, and he is a great competitor. We raced against him all the time and raced very clean and did a great job of it. He was right on my tail. We caught back traffic. He got beside me through turn 4 and 5, and luckily I just had a nose on going into 5. I was able to take it on from that point on.
There was a little bobble on the last lap. Did that any particular reason or just pushing too hard?
Just pushing too hard. That's the bottom line of it. So it was really an unbelievable race, and I really appreciate Aaron Hoover for his help this year as our crew chief, and really appreciate Polestar Racing Group for their engineering expertise all year and setting the car up, whether they're at the track with us or not at all. So it's fantastic.
Well, this is a great way to end the season. Well done. Biz?
Well, Merle, I got to tell you, first of all, congratulations on your silver medal in a great race. What happened on the first lap there? You went off pole position and you didn't come around first.
No, it was a really close race all the way around, and at the start I kind of fell for a classic trick where David accelerated a little bit and I tried to accelerate with him, and really I was like too high in my first gear and I hit the rev limiter right off the bat, and I lost the lead right there. And when that happens on this track, it's incredibly tough to get back around, and all the corners where I was quick, it's so tough to get up underneath somebody because the aero washes away. And so.
Okay, I'm going to ask you, I'm sorry, I'm going to move you forward to the middle of the race. I mean, actually, about lap 15, everything goes sideways in front of you. What did you do to avoid that situation?
It was just one of those things where I actually saw the car coming up, and I figured there was maybe an opportunity there. And unfortunately, with 3 wide was a little bit too tight, clear down there on the inside, and I couldn't quite carry enough speed, so we went through there side by side, which left David lined up for the next corner, and I slid out on the marbles in the next corner, and it was a great race all the way around.
All right, well, congratulations on that silver. Hey, guys, you said he did the gentleman thing at that last lap, the last corner. He could have bumped in, it would have been a racing incident. He said it's not my style.
I think you're absolutely right. It was incredibly clean, especially that run through the carousel over there. I mean, he could have easily drifted out a little bit, forced Grant off that track. He elected not to do that. And then, of course, coming into that last sequence of turns on that final lap in the autocross, after Grant made the mistake, again, another opportunity where Merle could have, shown him the nose a little bit.
Well, absolutely. He is a class act. And as we look here at that final lap, you can see there Grant gets a little bit sideways there through 12. Swan is suddenly a lot closer. Here's another look at it. Grant slow off that corner. Swan now needs to just dive down the inside if he really wants to risk getting that gold medal. He chooses not to. A good clean finish to what was an excellent race here today.
Yeah, he drove a brilliant race, obviously, very clean, elected to do it that way. And David Grant, well, I tell you, when he needed to be brave and needed to have confidence and get the job done, he did, got the checker. And welcome back to Heartland Park, Topeka. Take a look here in the Formula Atlantic National Championship runoffs, the unofficial full field results. And it was just a stunning race here without question. And the only real problem in terms of a car that didn't get to the finish was Mike Mallinen. Everybody else was able to get around. A great job. And the guy who I think maybe put on, even though he didn't win it, one of the most brilliant races we've seen in a while is in third with Justin Bell.
David Wilcox, you were, I think, the race and fan favorite throughout. You put on an amazing show, but it almost went wrong on that first lap.
Yeah, well, thank you very much, first of all. But yeah, I tried to stay aggressive on the start, and it was kind of messy up there, and kind of got off in the weeds a little bit, but got a couple positions back and just worked hard to try and get back up to the front.
And what we were speculating that your car was cutting through the air better because of its basically an older shape, less drag. Is that the case? You were really able to hold with them?
I think so. On the straightaway, we didn't have too much problem, and really in the corners it wasn't too bad. So the car just worked great all around.
Well, you know what? It's a beautiful car, a great bronze medal, and we obviously think some great driving talent. Well done. Biz, 4th place.
Well, Keith Grant just out of the medals in 4th place, qualified 3rd. A bit of a disappointment, but let me tell you, you could have gotten collected up several times in the beginning laps, middle of the race. How did you avoid all that?
Well, the first time was when David went off in the bus stop coming off turn 9 in the back. It was all of us had to get out of it. All I could see was dust, and I was afraid he was spinning, but amazingly made it through there. Next lap, coming down into turn 10, the left-hander as he come over the tunnel, Merle got a little loose there. I lifted, got out of it pretty fast, and my car got loose. And
well, I'll tell you, you're one heck of a survivor. He's going to be back next year. He's going to qualify better than third and be on the podium, guys.
Oh, you know that. He won the gold in GT4 in 03, and now his brother David joins the Grants Army gold medal winners, doing a nice job. Well, folks, that wraps up our team's coverage here at this year's 2008 Runoffs. It has been an absolute treat, and we'd like to say a few things here. First of all, we'd like to say a great thanks to Ray Irwin and the staff at Heartland Park, Topeka, a wonderful facility. We have enjoyed our time here. We also have to say thanks to all of the SCCA volunteers, from registration, every specialty that is staffed here. The volunteers are what make this club happen. It is phenomenal. And most of all, a thanks to our TV crew. They have been here through all of this with setup, the whole job, from the camera people to the great crew in the truck. And a special thanks to a couple of guys down in pit lane lugging those cameras around for 5 straight days. So it has been awesome. And I also have to say a big thanks to Calvin Fish, John Bizignano, and Justin Bell. Cal, it's been a treat.
It was immense. Your knowledge is incredible, Greg. Really enjoyed working with you, and for Biz and Justin down in the pits, we had a lot of fun, boys.
Without a doubt, it has been a treat. Thanks so much for joining us. And as always, we love it here at Speed, bringing coverage of the Olympics of Motorsports, the National Championship Runoffs. Hope to see you next year, folks.